Right, interesting title, right? Yeah. I have a very big gripe with this name called Africa. We celebrated Africa Day on May 25th, and for the life of me, I thought about it, I sat down, and I don't understand what this term Africa is, what it means, what it comes from, and the reason why I have a problem with it, because names are very important, and I'll explain why. And the reason why names are important, especially African names, is because they serve a purpose. My name is Zola, and I want to talk to you today about why Africa does not exist. Or, if you like, call me by my name. I'm sure you've all faced the issue when somebody has to ask your name or they can't say it. And it's such a personal thing, but we easily gloss over it. A few things I want to raise on this. Firstly, have you noticed that it's a lot easier to forget names than other things? And I looked into this. Why do we tend to forget names? The research says 70% of people are more likely to forget your name the first time around. And you have to associate it with something strange or repeated. And it's weird because it's not like, well, in examples, you don't hear that name for the first time. You know many people have that name, but you can still forget that person's name. Why is that the case? And the research here is strange. The research says we fail to associate that person with that name because the name is arbitrary. Here's where I disagree. Maybe white names are arbitrary, Bo Michelle, Bo Peter, etc. That might be the case. But I don't think that research is applicable to African names. Because African names, next slide please, are purposive. African names are a declaration of a condition or a state. For example, Sibongile, directly translated, that means we're thankful, we're grateful. Sithembile, we trust. My name, Zola, means humble, tranquility, right? So African names are such an important part of our identity because when I see you, I'm declaring an existing state. We are thankful for meeting you. We are thankful that you are here, right? So don't ever change your name or ask someone to pronounce it easier or, forbid, give an alternative name for them to pronounce because then they're robbing you of the declaration that was put upon you. This is the importance of names. In fact, names were so important that even God had to introduce himself by name when he wrote, right? It's not, oh, I am this amazing entity or deity. I am he. Even you have to call your dog by a name in order for that animal to respond. So it's always interesting for me why we gloss over African names or even don't think deeply of what a name is and what it means. Right? This brings me back to the whole idea of Africa. What is this term Africa? And it annoys me, especially if we've traveled, you go overseas and they say, oh, are you from Africa? Like, do you understand that Wakanda has more existence and meaning than a place that actually exists? It's the same WhatsApp group for me, right? So I'm trying to introduce myself more deliberately to dispel the myth that there's this place called Africa. And the reason why I dislike it is because it unfairly and illegitimately homogenizes a culture, a place, a people that is so diverse with over 1,000 languages. That's more languages on the continent than anywhere else on the planet. It glosses over identities, cultures, and histories because you want to put yourself in this term, Africa. Where do we use this term? It's actually a proper noun, a collective proper noun that external people can refer to you as that group over there. So you only identify as Africans when they say, for example, you're in a room and there's meeting and those are the Africans. Or the type of food, oh, those are African food. It's jollof, chief, it's not African food. Right? So it's quite important that when we introduce ourselves, you say, I am this person, I'm from Nigeria. Now, I had this fancy speech and these fancy examples, but I'm actually tired of talking because I think we do a lot of talking and what's happening in Sudan is quite a travesty. And the reason why it bothered me so much is we ask ourselves, why did you give so much attention to a burning empty building in Paris, but no one is trying to see what's happening in Sudan? And the answer is simple. Because these things are expected to happen in Africa repeatedly, right? This is not a surprise for the rest of the world. Therefore, it doesn't gain the prominence that you think it should have. Right? So it's quite important we take our narrative directly. It's quite important that we own it. And I think the first way of owning it is to dispel this homogenizing term called Africa. Last slide, please. So we are not Africa. We don't identify ourselves in that way. The world does. It's something called an exonym. Right? Exonym is a term an outside group uses to identify you that you don't identify yourself. This is important. What did our ancestors call this place before the term Africa was loaded onto it? Africa's got so many connotations. It's got, in fact, if you Google the term Africa, you will see so many negative things. I studied African studies, and the term African studies, do you understand that the majority, overwhelming narrative about Africa is not written by Africans? It's stories and interpretations told by somebody else through their lens of interpretation of existence. This is a travesty. So I'm going to ask you, let's stop using this word Africa and call ourselves by our names.